Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four: First Steps released this weekend on July 25th, and I had the opportunity to see it. And in my personal opinion, it's a fantastic film, and a great way to kick off Phase 6 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially after how shaky Phase 5 was. And after personally being disappointed in many of Marvel's recent projects, I can say watching this movie felt like a breath of fresh air, and something very new for the studio. While watching this movie, I got a feeling I don't think I felt before from Marvel, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this is the best team movie in the Marvel franchise. Not even the 2012 Avengers tops this for me, due to how different and true to the comics this story is. Even with the aesthetic, you can tell the creative team made it their mission to make this movie feel like a 1960s futuristic project. Dedication and the motive of faithfulness to the comics went into this film. Marvel delivered and have done right to a lot of their wrongs. From the performances of the cast members to the pacing of the story, every part of the film felt planned and intentional. The character dynamics were executed perfectly, and the severity of the situation actually felt real, and reminded me why I gravitated toward Marvel films in the first place. If this is the tone Marvel plans to be setting for Phase 6, then they have the opportunity at something memorable. So I'm happy to make this video and dissect the film as a whole, because it's a huge tone shift from Marvel's recent disappointments. I want to start with what I think is the backbone of this film. Obviously the casting for the Fantastic Four. The lineup feels like it was handpicked to bring the Fantastic Four to life in a way we honestly haven't seen before. Each actor brings something new and familiar to their character, and you can tell that they all have chemistry, from the trailers, the film, and even the press tour interviews. Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. His casting was perfect, and his performance was fantastic and grounded in how the character should be portrayed. Is he a genius? Yes, but he doesn't come across as a cold and distant one, like Tony Stark, whose smarts emotionally disconnect him from his surroundings. There's real humanity in the way he interacts with his team, and for once, I felt like I was watching his character not move like a robot. He had feelings and emotional understanding of his team just as much as he did scientific. Vanessa Kirby as Susan Storm. This movie successfully finally gave her the spotlight she deserves. She isn't only there as a supporting character on Reed's arm, not able to truly hold her own against massive threats. Not that the past versions were completely this, but they were closer to this than she is. We see that in this new film, with her moments being more outstanding than any live-action Sue before. For once, she isn't just the team's emotional strength, she's a part of the team as a fighter too. The way Vanessa plays her is so layered in her leadership and her integrity, without feeling forced. And as someone who enjoys each individual member of the team, I notice this and can appreciate it. Johnny Storm, played by Joseph Quinn, brings the energy you'd expect from the character, but in a way we've never seen in cinema before. He isn't messing anything up, and he's actually a part of the team, without Reed or Sue having to drag him kicking and screaming. In the new film, he has several character-defining moments. I won't spoil, but they're solid. He proves himself to be a strong part of the team multiple times, and there isn't a moment in the film you feel like he doesn't belong. Personally, Joseph's performance was probably my favorite. I've always liked the character, but the way he's played in First Steps solidified my love for him. And as for Ben Grimm, played by Ebon Moss-Bachrach, I was honestly shocked and impressed with how much character depth they gave him in First Steps. For once in live action, he's not just an angry character, upset and insecure about the life he lives as the Thing, but he's adjusted to his life. From what we know, he's happy with himself. In short, you feel the weight of what he's going through without the movie stopping for melodrama. It's subtle, but it hits. Overall, he's happy and has come to terms with himself. I was honestly shocked at how much I walked out the theater, now gravitating towards the character more than ever before. To simply put this together, the cast feels like a real family, and that's something we've been missing in a lot of recent Marvel team-ups. They bounce off each other, they argue, but they're still a team and you can feel it in every scene. To move on, let's talk about the visuals. Because this movie, as I said, looks different from anything Marvel's done before, and that's an amazing thing. From the intro to the opening scene, you can feel the extreme shift. The 1960s inspired futuristic aesthetic wasn't just used as a selling point or a gimmick, it's an actual character in itself. This retro-futuristic version of New York and the surroundings of the 828 universe breathes so much life into the film and the foundation of the movie's visual identity. This blend of retro design and high-concept sci-fi makes this movie feel like the classic Marvel comics brought to life, not just another CGI Marvel set. The cityscapes and tall buildings were so detailed in a good way. The costumes and the retro tech, even the lighting, have this clean but stylized look to it. It's like stepping into a time capsule of what the future could have looked like. It's colorful, but not overbearing, and also surprisingly grounded. And I can't talk about the visuals of the movie without mentioning Galactus. I'm going to try to be careful in explaining his presence, so I won't spoil how he's portrayed exactly. But the size alone of his character and the design choices made him feel terrifying. As great as the film is, because he was in it, it's potentially the scariest Marvel movie you could watch. Seriously, his first appearance on screen is so unsettling, and how the entire scene ended up playing out was terrifying. And I'll probably make a separate video talking about Julia Gardner's performance as the Silver Surfer, because it was so groundbreaking. All this without leaning into typical CGI problems Marvel usually runs into. Instead, you feel the weight and the size of his character when he's on screen, but the visual effects in general are crisp and not overdone. There's a stylized look that I appreciated, like how all of their powers were designed, especially how Sue's powers were visualized. Her force fields and invisibility feel and look different, not just layered over her. It adds weight to her character in every fight scene. Also, shout out to the color palettes. There's this bold use of blues, silvers, and unnoticed detail that make the film visually stand out, but not in an eyesore kind of way. It's subtle, but still cinematic. Also, honorable mention, the costume design also deserves praise. They didn't go overly modern like in the past. They leaned into the comics in the best way on screen. It gave the film a timeless feel. As great as the movie looks, it seriously just isn't about the look of it. So let's talk about the storytelling, because this film doesn't just look good, it's written well with intention. What really stood out to me is how tight and emotionally grounded the story is. Even with how big the cosmic risk is, the movie never loses its focus on the team, and the fact that there are real people behind these superheroes. So the pacing is surprisingly strong. There wasn't really a moment where I felt anything was being dragged out. 20 minutes into the film and we had already began building towards the plot. Even when things slowed down, it felt like it was for character development, not filler. It takes its time building the relationships and letting moments breathe in between events. And as someone who appreciates good cinematic moments, in my opinion, this was done beautifully. Not everything is rushing to the next action sequence. The structure of the story plays out more like a character drama in a sci-fi, rather than a typical superhero film. The threads build up gradually, and when they hit hard. And another thing that I loved about this movie, it doesn't spend too much time on the origin at all.
Well, folks, we all know the story. 4 brave astronauts head off into space and come back forever changed.
The story respects that a lot of people already know the basics, and instead, it focuses on what happens after. The audience is thrown into a world where things have already happened, and it never feels confusing. Like the storytelling trusts the audience for once, and that makes the movie feel refreshing. And the way the third act plays out, it's done so perfectly, and it actually has emotional weight. It doesn't feel like the usual overuse of heavy CGI, consequence-free Marvel finale. I also can't move on without giving credit to the writing team. There are so many lines of dialogue that stick long after you watch the film. And I won't say much, but Sue gives an incredible speech that makes you care about the stakes and what's actually going on in the movie. It felt straight out of the comics, but still cinematic. When the emotions are high, the writing knows when to pull back instead of going full melodrama. So how does the Fantastic Four First Steps actually fit into the bigger picture of the MCU and Phase 6 in particular? I can confidently say this movie feels like a strong start to the next phase. It's not just the Fantastic Four as a team, but the entire future direction of the next saga. What's different here is that it doesn't feel like it's only setting things up. It feels like Marvel is finally getting back to telling a complete story, and this creative decision pays off in the long run. It goes over well with fans. And I can also confidently say I think the connections are there. I'm sure we'll feel the presence of the multiverse and the cosmic consequences in the future, even if they aren't fully front and center. There are moments, certain lines of dialogue, and certain appearances that make it very clear this all leads to something, and they're doing this with way more precision than we saw in Phase 5. Another thing that impressed me was this movie doesn't rely on cameos or forced tie-ins to make an impact, like I was actually expecting. It earns importance through strong character work, bold choices, and its own identity. If anything, this feels like a successor, almost like what Iron Man did for Phase 1. It stands on its own but leaves the door open for what's next. And if what's coming looks anything like this, Phase 6 might actually restore some fans' faith in Marvel. Now that I've talked about the cast, the visuals, the stories, and the future MCU setup, here's my honest opinion on Fantastic Four First Steps. This is hands down one of the most emotionally real, creatively bold, and refreshingly focused Marvel movies I've seen recently. It's not trying to juggle 5 different timelines or squeeze in cameos every 5 minutes. It's just simply telling a story with a real sense of direction. I went in hoping it would be good, especially because Phase 5 was frustrating and left me in a weird spot as a fan. But this didn't just meet my expectations, it reminded me why I became a fan of the MCU in the first place. The emotional parts in the film hit hard, the characters are very real, and the film actually has a message to spread about family, identity, and sacrifice. To me, this isn't just a good comeback for Marvel, it's a strong presentation of the next phase. And if this is what Phase 6 is going to feel like, then we might be entering a new golden age of the MCU. So overall, what I'm saying is Fantastic Four First Steps is a massive win for Marvel. It's character driven, beautifully made, and emotionally telling in a way that caught me off guard. This isn't just a fun movie, it's a meaningful one. If you're someone who felt burnt out or disconnected from Marvel's recent projects, I really think this film is the one that could pull you back into the universe. In short, it manages to set up a future we can actually be excited for. For me, this is easily a top tier Marvel film, definitely in my top 5 and a strong 10 out of 10. If I'm being real, I'm excited to see where the Fantastic Four go next, how they'll move forward as a team, and if they'll make it out of Avengers Doomsday. If you made it this far in the video, you either agree with what I'm saying or you're preparing to write a hate comment. Either way, go ahead, like and subscribe so I can keep pointing out Marvel's mistakes and so you can keep commenting about how much you disagree. Until then, have a wonderful day.